A good day to Professor Dr. Rohayu and to my fellow friends. I'm Isaac, and today we are going to dive into something that's not just an academic topic, it's a part of our daily lives now. I'm talking about the huge shift from working in offices to working from home or work from home. Now, I'm guessing most of us here have experienced work from home at some point over the past couple of years. We have had to figure out how to balance work, family, and maybe even Netflix during office hours. Oops. But how did Malaysia's public sector cope with this major change? Well, that's what we are going to explore today, how the shift to work from home happened in the public sector, the challenges that come with it, and some ideas to make it better. Now, let's set the scene. The pandemic hit us like a freight train. It wasn't just a health crisis, it was an emotional, economy, and social storm. According to the World Health Organization, nearly 6.9 million people worldwide lost their lives to COVID-19, and many more suffered in silence with mental health issues. Remember those early lockdowns? Suddenly, we are all living in isolation, away from our families and friends, with work piling up in front of us, and no one really knew when it was going to end. It really felt like being in a never ending Zoom, right? On top of that, the economy took a huge hit. Millions lost their jobs, especially in informal sectors where remote work wasn't an option. And it wasn't just the private sector. Government services had to figure out how to keep running too. How could they deliver essential services without compromising the safety of their workers? The answer, in many cases, work from home. Now let's take a global look at how this all unfolded. The shift to remote work was something many of us had to adjust to almost overnight. The pre-pandemic remote work was seen as a luxury or something you only did once in a while, maybe on the odd day you had to stay home because of a cold or something. But when the pandemic hit, remote work wasn't just a perk, it was the only option. In the US, they projected that remote work would stabilize at about 20% even after the pandemic. That's a huge shift, I mean. Think about it, because before 2020, working in pajamas was something you have only do during a sick day, but suddenly it was the norm for millions of people. But remote work wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. For many, it meant staring at a screen for hours with kids, pets, and maybe even the neighbors' loud music in the background. And if you're anything like me, the mute button became your best friend. But as we all learn, remote work presents unique challenges like loneliness and lack of direct collaboration, and the public sector was no exception. Let's talk about how the public sector handled the big move to remote work. The government, much like a lot of other organizations, had a lot of doubts at first. Could civil servants really perform their duties effectively without face-to-face interactions? Could they maintain the same level of productivity? The public sector isn't like the private sector where profit is the driving force. It's about delivering services to the public. So there was a lot of pressure to make this shift work. Many government services had to stay on site: healthcare, law enforcement, emergency services, all essentials. But for the rest of the public servants, it was a steep learning curve. Suddenly, they were juggling work with home responsibilities, not to mention the mental stress for everything happening around them. Technology, though, saved the day. Platforms like Zoom and Microsoft Teams became their lifeline, helping them stay connected and continue their work. But I'm sure we can all relate to the awkwardness of those first few virtual meetings. Who knew so many people would suddenly have a technical difficulties during presentation, right? Here in Malaysia, the government didn't waste any time rolling out policies to make work from home work. By 2020, most government offices had transitioned to remote work, with exceptions for essential services, of course. But then by 2023, the government introduced a hybrid model, a mix of working from home and coming into the office. This allowed public servants to balance flexibility and productivity. Think about it. Before, you had to get up early, battle traffic, and go to the office, but now public employees could wake up and dive straight into work without the commute. It's like someone handed us the secret to time travel. The hybrid model offered a balance that allowed workers to enjoy the best of both worlds. And while this shift happened quickly, it showed that the public sector could adapt when needed. So you might be wondering, Why does work from home actually work in the public sector? Well, there are a few key theories that can help us understand this shift. First is organizational change management theory. This theory tells us that organizations are forced to adapt to external pressures when the pandemic hit. It was clear that the public sector had no choice but to adapt to the new reality of work from home. Then there's job demand control theory, which says that the key to employees' well-being is a balanced job demands with autonomy. And guess what? Work from home gave employees more control over their environment and schedules. While some struggled, many actually found they could get more done without the distraction of the office. Let's not forget social exchange theory. This is all about the relationship between employers and employees. If employees feel supported and valued, they are more likely to give their best efforts even remotely. And last, work family conflict and enrichment theory highlights how remote work can help employees balance work and family responsibilities, especially during a pandemic. That's a game changer. Malaysia didn't just throw employees into remote work without support. The government issued several key guidelines to help make the transition smoother. But even with these guidelines, there were still some hiccups. The guidelines were a good start, but they didn't cover everything. For example, they didn't fully address hybrid working models or the need for more robust employee well-being support. So what can we do to improve them? Let's dive into some recommendations. So let's talk about how we can make things even better. Here are a few key recommendations. First, clear guidelines on in hybrid working model. We need clearer, more specific guidelines on which roles are best suited for remote work and how to balance remote and in-office work. Second, promote collaborative working culture. Remote work can help isolating can feel isolated. It's important that we foster a culture of communication and collaboration. Regular virtual team meetings, casual check-ins, and knowledge sharing sessions can help maintain engagement. Third, support employees' well-being. Mental health is huge. Public sector agencies need to provide mental health resources, stress management programs, and social engagement opportunities to help employees cope with the pressures of remote work. Fourth, provide career development for public sector employees. Just because employees are working remotely doesn't mean they could stop growing professionally. Offering online leadership programs and mentorship opportunities can help them advance their career. Fifth, address gender inequality. Work from home can provide a unique opportunity to address gender inequality. Flexible policies should support employees regardless of gender who are balancing work and caregiving responsibilities. To wrap it up, the shift to work from home in the public sector has shown us that despite the challenges, it's possible to make remote work work even in a traditional structured environment. Yes, there were bumps along the way, but with the right policies and support, remote work has proven to be both effective and necessary for the future of the workforce. The hybrid model is here to stay, and if we continue to refine these policies in the public sector, we can ensure a more flexible, productive, and inclusive public sector. Thank you all for sticking with me through this presentation. I hope it gave you some insightful insights into how the public sector transition to work from home and what we can do to improve it. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas. Have a great day.